Hello and welcome to the special telecast of the ET interview. We've got a very special guest joining in on the show this evening, Dinesh Paliwal, Chairman and CEO of Harman International. Such a pleasure having you, sir, in our studios. You know, the last time we spoke, Mr. Paliwal, you spoke to ET now was about 4 years ago at the height of the Commonwealth Games, and you were rather nervous at the pace at which things were happening. Harman, of course, was the audio partner for the Games. How have things changed over the last 4 years as far as India is concerned?
Well, that's a leading question. First of all, thank you for having me on your show. Good to be here. Things have changed recently. I would not say for 4 years. You're right. We were nervous, but thank God that was a national pride and we took it very seriously and we came through. But I must say that the recent change on the political landscape under Prime Minister Modi, he has absolutely energized not just Indians in India, but business leadership in Western world. As recently, you know, even he was in the United States for 4 days. I was also fortunate enough to have a small group meeting of just 10 of us in the evening, and then he had dinner with about 400 or 500 people. But the smaller group meeting, we got to see the man up close. He is very sincere, he's a great listener, and amazingly, his grasp of issues, wide-ranging issues. So I'm actually very energized, and I think I can speak on behalf of lots of people I have talked to.
I want to go back to that interview because you also said that, you know, in India things get done at the nth hour, and that's always not the right thing to do. And here we have a government which places a lot of, thrust on governance, on administrative efficiency. Do you already see changes in the ground because you've already started a manufacturing unit here in India? How have things changed on the ground according to you?
So I think we will allow ourselves for the government to have a little more time, because I think they are right now saying the right thing, starting to make the moves at the leadership, which is what CEOs do. First thing CEOs do is to put the great team around. Otherwise, nothing happens. Strategy and execution, they go hand in hand. So I think these are the great signs of a great CEO of a great country like India. But in terms of our factory, we actually made that decision some time back to open a world-class factory in Pune, right next to our R&D center in Pune, to serve the Tata Motors. We already serve JLR and also Volkswagen and Fiat. So that factory actually just started, but official christening or ribbon cutting is this Friday. I'm very excited. And this factory has a capacity of 400,000 high-end electronics units for the cars, as well as the high-end audio systems to produce annually. But we can quadruple this capacity as business start to grow, including domestic and export.
You've obviously put in some amount of investment for this manufacturing facility at Chakan, but in terms of a more long-term outlook, how has your investment outlook changed towards India?
You know, India, if you talk to any of my fellow CEOs in America or Western world, they will say India's potential is there, it's going to happen someday. So we are long lead business people. We have $21 billion worth of order book today, which will go on until 2020. So we have to invest for business to come 3 years out, 5 years out. Excuse me. So Tata, what a great relationship we have. We knew this is the beginning. So we started doing it with the new energy and tremendous promise in Prime Minister's will and determination. I think I would not be surprised if we actually quadruple our investment in 5 years.
Okay, would you be able to talk about the amount of money you've put in so far, or is that number that you've disclosed?
I don't think we've gone to that level, and we don't do that by country. But a factory like this is not in single digit. They are double-digit investment in very high quality equipment, highly automated. The quality consistency is world class, and of course a lot of intellectual property which we have developed. We invest $450 million in R&D every year. So a lot of the intellectual property is coming to India without changing the books. So all in all, we have said a $250 million sales target in 2016 in India, and probably close to $100 million investment in the next 3 to 4 years.
Sure. Now, you also spoke about the fact that this manufacturing unit is initially going to service your customers in India. A lot of them are global players as well. At what stage would you look at using this as a base to export products in the region at least? You do have a lot of plants in China as well, though.
Right. We have plants in China. We have a regional philosophy now. We want to serve Asia from Asia, Europe from Europe, and Americas from America. So I would say China and India would be our manufacturing hub for the entire Asia Pacific. We don't intend to have manufacturing in Japan, Australia, or Southeast Asia. India and China, two largest market, and also largest source of intellect, both engineering, manufacturing at all levels, and finance and accounting. So that would be our way. However, when you ask me export, absolutely. See, all of our factories are equipped to serve any global customer anywhere. So on a need basis, we optimize our factories. Sometimes we ship products from China to US for BMW plants, or vice versa. So India plant may very well start to ship if we have need, or if we see how things are developing, we can start to export from here to either Asia or even outside of Asia.
Now, outside of this manufacturing unit, you do have a reasonably large R&D unit as well. In fact, 2 units, 2 development centers in India. How much of innovation is driven out of India as we speak right now?
I'm going to surprise you here, because a lot of people actually completely blown away when I say this. We were non-existent in India 7 years ago. Today, I'm extremely proud. We have 700 engineers between 2 centers. Bangalore is our primary center, and Pune is now developing also very well. India has ranked 3rd largest contributor of intellectual property and patents filing in the world of Harman. And we file a lot. We have now nearly 6,000 patents, and we have tripled the patents in the last 7 years. So I'm quite pleased, and especially the cloud-based Harman Innovation Studio. We have a lot of entries are constantly coming from Indian engineers, because they're generally humble and they hold back. And I constantly encourage them, and I'll be in Bangalore to talk to them. Hey guys, don't hold back. You may not have 15, 20, 30 years of experience, but you have the intellect, you have the insights, share ideas. And that is changing the culture.
Globally, Harman has its finger in many pies. In terms of India as a market, from a sales point of view, which are the segments where you see a lot of penetration?
So we have 3 businesses. Largest one is infotainment. That's where we're serving Tata. That's about $3 billion worldwide. And then about $2 billion is lifestyle. That's where we do the consumer, high-end wireless, portable speakers, headphones, home theater, and the car audio, which we are also serving in India. The 3rd segment, which is extremely exciting for India as well, that's the professional audio, video, lighting, and enterprise automation. So we can do end-to-end, including we are doing Bank of America, we're doing Goldman Sachs, we're doing Boeing, IBM, NATO. So I see India, as India will now go through a massive infrastructure build-up, will have a role to play in all 3 segments extremely well. Therefore, my enthusiasm for India and China is extremely high. China started with $20 million 7 years ago. We finished last year $700 million in sales. India holds similar promise. So we can actually multiply here very, very rapidly, because we have the technology. And I think we understand Indian market. Myself and my colleague Sachin, who runs one of the largest division, both have very good feel for India. And we understand Indians are very, very good in negotiating the best technology at the lowest cost, which means you have to design to that. We do not want to force Western feature functionality on the Indian consumers. So consumer insights, and we are doing it. In fact, all our home multimedia consumer devices, we are actually designing to Indian taste. And that's the discussion we have with Tata executives. How do we customize and create the wow factor for Indian consumers, which may not mean a whole lot to Germans and Americans and vice versa?
You spoke about the Chinese market and how that's done phenomenally well for you. But how do the 2 markets compare in terms of penetration, in terms of consumer preferences, and in terms of revenue potential from a 10-year point of view?
China, I think, will continue to be much larger market for Harman, or I would say for most companies that's the case, because they started early. And the consumerism has grown, and a lot of wealth creation has reached to the millennials, and they're spending money. And India is behind on that front, but India can catch up, because the communication skills and the networking, the digitization of the economy in India has been pretty rapid. It's the governance issue. So I have said India could be $500 million market for us in the next 5 years. So it depends also on opening up the market, and also up to Harman and many other companies, how well you pay attention to the markets like India.
Now, a lot of products that you produce are typically proprietary products, and there is a lot of R&D that goes behind those products, and there is a certain value to it. And India is traditionally seen as a very price-sensitive market. So how do you balance this, so to say, this trade-off, so to say?
I would say Indians are no different than Chinese in one aspect. They're extremely brand conscious. They want authentic top brands. And this is where Harman has differentiated with our Harman Kardon, with our JBL, Revell, Mark Levinson, AKG. These are the best iconic brands. They want these brands, but they cannot afford to pay necessarily American, European prices. So we are developing products with the same sonic signature, Harman quality, but feature functionality, what they really care. And we're designing those successfully. We're selling lots of product. We have seen phenomenal growth, 50-60% growth, of course, starting from a very low base in India. And we are also trying to bring in brand ambassadors like A.R. Rahman, who are purist, holy. And he's brand ambassador for JBL and other Harman brands. And we're always looking. We recently signed up Pariniti Chopra and Arjun Kapoor, those who associate more with the millennials, that these are my preferences. But mostly we want to connect our star power, because Harman has served the professional audio world. We want to connect those dots with Indian consumers so they can see if that's good for them, it must be good for me. At the same time, cost competitiveness is very key. And that's my firm belief. For any company to be sustainably profitable growth, they must get the cost leadership. They're not mutually exclusive.
Right. You know, if I look at your revenue mix globally, automotive is the large pie. I mean, more than a third probably comes from the automotive segment that you cater to. Is that a mix that's likely to remain over the medium term as well?
Automotive, we have largest market share in the world. In fact, we do 70% of our company's revenue comes from automotive. Between car audio, branded audio business, we do all the BMWs and Ferraris and Maseratis. These are audio and infotainment, and other 30% is professional audio and consumer. So I would say, since auto industry has many good years ahead, right now there's a lot of tailwind in that. US is doing quite well, China is doing quite well. India had a little soft month of October, but I don't read into month or quarters, I read into 5 years horizon. I think India has a great future. So I would say ratio might remain, but we're constantly acquiring business. We acquired AMX, Enterprise Automation. So right now, we are pushing for connected car, which is the future of the car in my view, connected lifestyle, because none of us are willing to sacrifice. We want to be totally connected, but wirelessly, and connected enterprise, the banks, the studios like yours, the boardrooms. You want safety, security, confidentiality, but totally connected to the global environment. So connectivity is the key for Harman, and that's why we're investing very heavily right now.
You know, you've been pushing a lot of the innovation in the connected car space. Where are we right now for viewers of ours who probably don't know what a connected car is? Where are we right now in terms of technology globally as far as a connected car is concerned, and where could we potentially be 5 years from now?
Well, that's a great question. So connected car means you should be able to operate in the car, provided you're not driving. That would be unsafe. Operate like you're in office or in your home. True connectivity to the high bandwidth internet. So you're doing internet banking, you're doing your office work, you're dealing with big data or whatever you do in your home and office. That would be true connected car. But that's the goal. To get there, we have to take many baby steps, which means first we connected your media. Media in the cloud. Whether you use any smartphone, your media is in the cloud and we can access that. Your playlist, your contact list. And we can also import some of the most favorite apps. That's second step. Third, safety. That's extremely important. So we have now embedded software features for forward collision warning, lane departure warning. Whether it's you're too tired or you had one too many drinks, cars should not be in unsafe environment. And more we are going haptic control, artificial intelligence, overhead visible displays, and of course peer-to-peer communication, hidden spot. Eventually we try to make driver to drive when he or she chooses to drive, but car can be driven. The car is an experience. When you're tired in the night or in the morning, you want to do something, car can also be autonomous driving. That's the direction. But think about it. On the road today, we have 750 million cars worldwide.
Sure.
Every we are adding 80 million cars. So even if we start to add 5-10%, the ratio even in 10 years out, autonomous car and highly smart car like BMWs and Audis and Mercedes or even Tata. Smart means a lot of feature for safety of you and me and our loved ones, and security. When you connect the car, the biggest fear, Sandeep, you have is bad guys, the hackers can come in the car and you have your seat belts on, they can unhook your seat belts.
And these are problems that no one's traditionally been kind of conscious of.
Cars were never designed to be connected to internet. Now all of a sudden we are opening a Pandora's box, which means the software architecture which we design has to be designed so we can isolate the mission critical braking, safety and other engine control features, while the fun stuff, the connected lifestyle, can be partitioned out. And that's something we launched at CES, Consumer Electronics Show, in January 2013. A lot of work to do there, but our R&D center in Palo Alto, which is where this stuff is really happening, we have an R&D lab there, and they're working on quite a few amazing things, surprisingly.
I'm curious to know, since there is a lot of talk on driverless cars as well, a lot of technology, a lot of focus there as well, how far away are we realistically from a situation where we see more adoption of driverless cars? Are we still a decade away, would you say?
I would not say we're a decade away. The technology is here, but for the mass commercialization, a lot of testing has to be done, because car is a life and death situation. So technology-wise, I think we are 5 years away. But adoption would be, it's a generational thing. I like to drive. My children, 26, 24, they also probably like to drive. But they may have a choice not to drive. Actually, the next generation may say, why should I drive when I can be driven? Just like when we are in flying mode, we don't have an urge to fly the plane. We don't have an urge to drive the bus. So I think it's a generational thing. It's happening. Technology-wise, we are a lot more closer than people think.
Right. The one fallout of so much of technology getting into our cars, and smart cars, is this whole concept of distracted driving phenomenon. Because if I know my car has all these features, I might be tempted to start using them. How does one kind of manage that, so to say?
That's a very, very important point. Responsibility is on companies like Harman and the car companies. It's all about user interface and ease of use. You do not want to pack a lot of technology if ease of use is not there, if it is complex. Because we need to make these cars so simple that very simple command, either voice command or simple view. We can also have, by the way, the retina gaze can trigger. We are working on some of that technologies. Or simple push buttons and what have you, touch screens. Voice is the key. That should be able to take very complex command or do the complex functions with a simple command, so to say. That is where work has to be done, because technology is there. But if you unleash all of that in a car and drivers aren't ready, that's where you can create unsafe environment. That's why car industry is generally one life cycles behind handheld devices, because they have to do very rigorous testing so that there is no life and death risk here. And that's why generally people say, how come these smartphones are not totally integrated in the car? Well, smartphones are not designed to be foolproof. They don't create safety hazard for you and I.
Sure.
But when you integrate them deeply in the car, now you're exposing the car. So that's why smartphones have skin deep penetration in terms of integration. The rest has to be done. So a lot of software architecture has to be revamped in the car. And generally you do that when the life cycle refresh comes. So it's 3 to 4 years out. But I would tell you here, in 3 years, most of the car would be launching with great degree of connectivity. BMW has already announced in 2016, every car would be connected from BMW. And other cars companies are not far behind. And we are in a pole position with, we work with BMW, Audi, Porsche, Daimler-Benz, Ferrari. We learn a great deal from them because they are the think tank.
You've given a fantastic overview of where we are in terms of technology globally, but where are we as far as India, given your understanding of the market? When do you see some of these products, getting accepted or, getting penetrated in a market like India?
India is quite interesting in any aspect. When you see, there's a spectrum here. There will always be first adopters very quickly.
But very few.
Very few, but there will be first adopters. But then, unfortunately, we also need good infrastructure to enjoy. If you talk about autonomous car or even driverless or very little interference-based car driving, you need good infrastructure to enjoy. China has great highways now, irrespective. So coming back to India, I think India would adopt very quickly because we're dealing with largest population of young people, the millennials. They are fearless. They actually are very well connected with what's happening in the world and willing to take chances with the new technology, with the new experience. They are willing to do it, but they also want competitive pricing. I remind you, I'm very competitive in terms of cost advantage in the company. Today, I believe we have hit one of the best class cost structure, and being in India and successfully competing with Tata's business and others, I think it's a good validation, but we still have to constantly innovate and still keep cost base low.
On a personal note, it's been over 6 years since you took charge at Harman, and things weren't very rosy when you took charge. There was a failed private equity buyout. The global recession hit the automotive industry, the luxury automotive industry as well. People called you in many ways a corporate turnaround agent after your stint at ABB as well. Do you now feel vindicated today, given the kind of results that you've delivered over the last 6-7 years?
Well, I feel really privileged because I inherited a company of great brands. There were few things weren't really going well in terms of execution culture, in terms of global reach, and we have addressed those. And we have now, in the last 5 years, we have very stable management team, which is fairly new because I built the new management team. Our board of directors also almost new set of board of directors, but it's an excellent board. So clear strategy. I will repeat, the strategy is not something I tinker every day. It's 5% of my job. 95% is execution and making sure that we have the governance in place, because countries like India and China, you can do one silly mistake and that can tarnish your image, and image is very important. So I feel good what we have done as a team, but most importantly I feel good about rapid growing emerging markets have shown tremendous potential. Countries like China, India, Brazil have done extremely well for Harman. This is where the growth has come, and this is where I expect now Indonesia adding to that, African countries added to that, because US and Germany or EU5, sure, these markets are big for us, but the growth there will not be more than 2 to 3% GDP. GDP growth will come 8 to 9% from other markets, and we have grown ×2 or ×3 GDP. That can only happen if we continue to focus on emerging market and the large population of China and India.
Mr. Paliwal, but tell us about your own journey, from a heavy engineering company to a company that has, in many ways, music at its soul, Has this changed your outlook towards business as well over the last few years?
It's funny you say that, because my son and daughter actually never understood what dad did in ABB days. So when I came in Harman, they said, that's a cool job, we can explain what you do. And my wife is actually a professional musician, she's a singer. And so I'm actually pretty odd man out in a musical company. All three of them are musical. But coming back to your question, I think ABB prepared me and prepared many other people the way ABB trained. So it's really understanding importance of your time. Where do you put your time, and what are the most critical things you must do? So number one thing I looked at what the team is. Is this the team which is globally minded, which has risk-taking capability, which has execution backbone, which has guts to really undo certain things, to reconstruct again? And that wasn't the case. So I think I was fortunate enough, my board of directors allowed, but that training was there from ABB. That's one. Number two, innovation. ABB was a very innovative company, and we saw we had tremendous legacy, but we weren't innovating fast enough. So that's where we put a lot of emphasis. And reverse innovation, where China and India have done wonders for Harman. In fact, there was a Harvard Business Review, Wall Street best-selling book, where Harman was given a full chapter on reverse innovation. And the third, I would say, is globalization. It's not the labor arbitrage. Good engineers in Shanghai and Bangalore are not inexpensive. They are actually almost coming to the US ranks very soon in terms of cost, the high-level engineers. It's the speed, it's the creativity of these people, that how much you can use and complement that with the experience of US and German engineers, with Indian engineers and Chinese engineers. And that's a discipline. It doesn't happen in one day. And then lastly, I would say leadership is about using the team. I'm very privileged, and honestly, I mean to say, if any of my team members are listening, I think the team has performed extremely well, and I'm very happy. And that's what allows me to think, what are we going to do 5 years out? What are the new markets we need to do? What is the next thing we should be doing in India? And I'm very excited about the prospects of the company and the team we have in place.
Mr. Paliwal, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
to be on your show.
Thank you so much.